Champion, my boo bear.
Oh, no, you're my boo. I had a crush on you first, but that's okay. We won't get into that. We won't tell Sophia.
No, she knows anyway.
She understands. Yeah.
Welcome to Wide Open.
Thank you.
So happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. Let me say this. I am very proud of you because you're so open and honest, and I am encouraged every time I see you. I'm all like, she's just herself, and no matter how uncomfortable it is, she's just herself. So cheers
to that, baby.
Cheers. Hey, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Of course.
And yes, we asked for wine, and we made everyone go run down and get us some
because it's necessary.
Because this is my show, and I can do what I want.
You can do what you want, and it's needed and necessary. And who cares if you're judging?
Yes, it is so necessary. And it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Somewhere. Not here, but somewhere.
Somewhere.
I'm okay with all of that. More wine, please.
I tell you what, this is what I'll start. I'll start the show off. The second I met you, I felt so safe with you. Oh. I did. I felt so safe with you. And I felt such a real connection, like on a serious level. And I am so happy that our friendship now is just like blooming. I want to spend time with you. I just invited you to Friendsgiving. Oh. You are auntie. I can't wait for the kids.
I'm braiding hair. I'm kissing babies. I'm pushing them around.
Yes.
We're dressing up. We're doing all of that. Well, I think the feeling is mutual. Okay, so I've always obviously known you. And then you came on my Amazon show, and I was just like, she's just so pretty, which you get all the time, right? You get that often. And it sounds very vain what I'm about to say, but there is something about someone who has a pleasant face to look at. This is what society is. It's just how it is. But it's not just that, it's your heart. And I think what we don't see a lot of nowadays, especially in our business, is authenticity. I'm at the space where I'm not trying to be your friend just to be like performing for Instagram, or I don't need all that. I know enough famous people. I can hang around all the famous people if I wanted to and post the photos and show. But you, above all, of all the women we were, because we went to Cannes together.
We sure did.
You, to me, felt the most at home and grounded and honest. And I think, especially for Black women, it's hard for us to be vulnerable, and you're very vulnerable. And it's hard for me to do that.
I really find that seeing people is probably one of my greatest gifts.
Really?
I do, because I think you have no idea what someone's walking through.
Yeah.
And if you just make eye contact, if you just stay present in a moment, it could be 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours.
Yeah.
You have no idea the impact you can make on someone's life.
I felt that from you. And that's also uncomfortable for someone who, sometimes when I go into spaces, I'm very guarded, only because this business has, and the world has, you know what I mean? Business in the world stops you from feeling safe.
I think, and you know what's interesting about that? Because we've been through some shit.
Yeah.
Right? So it's such a testament to who we are and how we lead that we still choose to be kind, because I do think kindness is currency. And I say that to my 3-year-old. We have 3 rules. It's the rules are the rules, sharing is caring, and kindness is currency.
Amen.
And I think it's a beautiful gift to be able to lead your life that way, even when so much trauma and so much shit has happened that could completely damage you and make you different.
100%. You are so right. One of my really good friends said to me, you still are soft, even though everything in the world has told you that you can be tough and you can be hard and you can close them off, but you're still soft and open. When the world says to you, why should you be? So that is a gift. That is a superpower that you have. And it's also why people are drawn to you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But let's get to you.
Okay.
I'm going to read a few things here.
Read them.
Cari is a broadcast journalist, sports anchor, and television personality, and an incredible human. You are absolutely stunning. You are. It's like, girl, I don't know why you're on TV. You should be modeling.
Okay, so true story. When people give me compliments about what I look like, I get a little uncomfortable because it feels odd to me. I grew up with a mom who always would tell me how smart I was. And she did not necessarily tell me I wasn't pretty, but it was always about, you're so smart. You can do all the things you want. You can change the world. And when people say that to me, I'm all like, oh, I feel it, but I don't, I get it. I get it a lot, y'all. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'm cute then, but I thank you for that. It's so uncomfortable.
That's okay.
Are you uncomfortable with compliments?
No, I tell you what, I'm in the era of receiving.
Okay.
So when someone says something nice, I'm going to help you here. Okay. When someone says something nice, it makes you feel uncomfortable, which we're women.
Yeah.
It happens all the fucking time. I just say, I'm receiving that. Thank you.
Okay.
Even when it's hard, Oof. I receive it.
I receive it.
I receive it.
I receive it.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you, friend.
So for nearly a decade, you were an anchor and host on ESPN, and you've been a long advocate for women of color in media, which I definitely want to get to, especially raising a Black daughter. You have your podcast now. I was on your show on Amazon. Yeah. It was the Cari Champion show, which was so much fun. I feel like that was when, even through the camera, I was like, oh, I love
same.
I was like, I've known her in a different lifetime.
Same.
You're an absolute star.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy for you to be, I received that. I'm so happy for you to be on this show.
I'm happy for you to have this show.
So tell me, I want to know about you. Because you're always the one interviewing people.
Ooh. And you know why I do that? I like to talk to people because I hate to tell my story. Oof. For a very long time, I was always embarrassed. I have the hardest time in relationships being completely naked. I have the hardest time in friendships that I haven't had for a long period of time and being naked. And what I mean by naked is just showing up. I grew up, it's interesting, and I don't know everyone's story, but you go through therapy, and I'm a big advocate of therapy, and you start realizing who you are and why you're built that way. So asking questions is just, one, I'm naturally curious, but two, it helps me avoid talking about me. And I'm right now, as we're doing this interview, I'm like, Cari, don't ask her a question, be quiet. No, I'm telling myself that so I won't have to avoid it. Growing up and I'm not speaking for all Black women, but I am speaking for many of us, vulnerability is often considered weakness because, survival of the fittest. Sometimes we don't have partners. Our parents didn't have, my mom didn't, she raised me by herself. My dad wasn't around. You hear this story. So the way you're raised, and my friend said this the other day, your mom raised you to be the man that you should need. Literally.
Wow.
Like literally without even without even me thinking about it. Like she raised me to be the man that I would need. And she wasn't thinking, oh, that's too alpha, or you're going to turn men off, or you're going to turn someone off with that. She just wanted me to take care of myself because life had shown her that if you do not take care of yourself, who else will? And I think I have spent a lot of my adult life trying to undo the alpha of me, because not in a bad way, but because being vulnerable is also powerful. Yeah. Telling your truth, showing your scars is also powerful. Taking all the, what did Brene Brown say once? She said, once you reveal your secrets, you take all the power away. You take all the shame away. We should bring shame back, by the way.
Yes.
We should be shaming people left and right. We don't do that anymore. No. People need to be shamed.
Yeah. Especially after.
I know, right?
You know what?
So I just try. It's just hard. It really is a tough thing to be myself, and I've battled with that in terms of allowing myself to be shown to people, and I've battled with that. But when I feel safe, you're getting it all, whether you want it or not. You're getting it all, whether you want it or not. I.e., Ashlyn, you're getting it all, whether you want it or not.
When we were in Cannes together at the Women's Sports House, we had so many good conversations, and we were in such an interesting place in our life. Yeah. But before I get to that, I have one question that I like to start every single show off with.
Oh, which is?
And it's so important because you were really getting into it. And before you go all the way, I really want to ask you this question. I find that in life, there's always one moment that splits you wide open. Yeah. That changes you forever. What was that moment for you?
Oh, I had a series of several things happen to me when I was 7 years old. I was in second grade. And I had always felt like I was different and set apart. I just always felt that. I just grew up and I felt different from my family, from my cousins, from everyone around me. I felt different. But when I was 7 years old, my mother took me out of my local elementary school, which was in West LA, and she bused me to school in the Valley. You know, you're very familiar with California. So she bused me to a school in Northridge. And that meant my whole schedule would change. So instead of being at school at 9 a.m. in the morning, I would have to get up at 6 and take a bus at 7 to get to school just before 9 o'clock. I had a full work day at 7 years old. And then by the time I got home, I was home by 4 or 5 o'clock. Literally from the time I was 7 years old up until I got to high school. And I went to this school. It was a busing program that they had in LA. And I remember they had me in classes for kids who weren't that smart. And and they had me reading at a level that was way underneath my level. But thank goodness there was a teacher who said, "No, I think you're too smart for that." And she made sure that just because I came from the Black school, that I was treated fairly. And to me, in that moment, the power of belief happened.
Wow.
And it was validating for me in a lot of ways, although I didn't know it. But this woman believed in me. She didn't even know me, but there was a reputation of all these kids coming from, LA, and they're not that smart, and we got to start them off here. And she was like, "Oh no, you're really smart. Let me move you to gifted." I went from remedial to gifted classes in 2 weeks because she saw my potential and how smart I was and how I was outperforming other kids. And so that belief in me at 7 years old changed everything. But all the while, when I would leave this beautiful school, I would go back home, and we didn't necessarily live in the hood, but it wasn't a great neighborhood. And I remember coming home from school on the bus and opening up the door, and the apartment had been robbed. And I was a latchkey kid. I had a key around my neck, and I undid the door. And I remember I would have to call my mom, and I called my mom and I said, "Hey, Mom, did you come home? Because the TV's pushed towards the door, and I think the glass is broken." I'm just 7 years old. I don't know. And my mother literally was like, "Oh, we've been robbed. You get out of the house right now." So I hung up the phone and left. 7 years old. Could you imagine?
Wow.
Like a full-grown adult.
Yeah.
You couldn't even tell that story today without somebody being like, "Okay, where's child services?"
Yeah.
And so I walked to my grandmother's house and waited there. But there were two things that life told me. One, always believe in yourself. But two, you are in a world where you're going to have to fend for yourself. No matter what my mother intended, because she did her best, her very best. But she was 20. And she hates to hear stories of me talking about when I was 7 years old and I used to come home by myself and walk to the bus stop by myself. She hates those stories, and I understand why, but it's a part of my truth. Yeah. And I had to fend for myself at 7 years old. Yeah. So those were the moments that really make me. Those two moments really make me and define who I am today.
You and I have very similar upbringings. I had two parents, same, both were in the house, hated each other, lived totally different lives. My mom struggled with extreme mental health issues. We didn't have the resources or the money to get those sorted. Add on addiction, drugs, alcohol. I mean, the whole house was absolutely chaotic and wild. And I would knock on people's doors. I had a nan across the street, and I'd be like, "I'm hungry." Yeah. We were raised in a different time where, we were out on, hanging on the streets.
Yes.
We had bike crews, skateboarding crews. We were playing hide and go seek at all hours of the night. It was just different. It was a different time, honestly, but it was a hard time.
Hard.
And what I'll say is, until I became a parent is the second I forgave my parents. Yeah.
Why?
Because it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Okay. And I have access to things that they could only dream of.
Powerful. Wow.
And now my relationship with my parents it's literally the best it's ever been, because I resented them. It was the reason I am who I am is out of spite and shame. And I wanted a better life for myself and my kids. And I was so fucking competitive, man. I was so competitive, and people thought I was nuts. Oh. But the reason I was so competitive is because I just didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go home back to that life. I didn't want to go home to hearing my mom cry and the pain and struggle of, and there's one memory, and I really haven't shared this. I remember we were on food stamps at one point, and I was in the Publix, like, checkout line. And at the time, there was something she wasn't allowed to get that was considered like hot food.
Okay.
And I could feel my mom so embarrassed and shrink. And I just was like, I'm going to do this because I want more for myself, but I want more for them. And when people, criticize me so much, which we'll get to in our work environment of being, I just didn't take bullshit. I was there to serve a job. I chose every single day to be the best, to be excellent, to be great, because I had something. I didn't have plan B. I didn't have mommy and daddy helping me. I had no fucking choice. And it was survival for me.
That's it.
So literally when people are like, whoa, she's too competitive. Oh, she's mean to me. Oh, no, I'm holding you to a standard of which you'll never fucking understand because I'm not going back. So if it's me and you, I'm gonna fucking eat you.
It's
that
me.
simple.
If it's me and you, it's me every time. I'm choosing me every time. What you just said helped me in a lot of ways because I am uber competitive in a very different way, but I am intense. I hear that all the time. Like when I'm at work, my friends are like, you're so intense. Or people I work with are like, she's a lot. But that is because I'm surviving. I have to survive. I want to survive and I don't want to go back. I think that drives you more than it can drive anyone. And I think when it's in a woman, it feels uncomfortable because you're not used to it. But it's survival. I remember thinking I grew up middle class. I remember thinking, oh, we're fine. I was like, this is great. I was happy. I didn't know any more. I had what I wanted to have, but life was introduced to me extremely early.
Yeah.
Like I knew there was no Santa Claus by the time I was 5.
Yeah.
I knew that my mother would try to get me those Christmas presents if she could, but maybe not. I knew that there were things that we could have and things that we just couldn't have. Like I wasn't allowed to have it. That's just because. But I also remember because I was going to that school, being bused to school, those kids, because kids are cruel as hell, would always remind me where I came from.
Yeah.
And they would be like, don't you live in downtown LA? Isn't it poor down there? And I remember being like, no, it's not. Because I really didn't think I lived that way. But there was this, you have to prove yourself. And that's what I felt. And all of that just permeates your entire existence until you get comfortable enough to know that you don't have to do it. But you just look back and you're like, oh, these are the things that made me. Like, these are the things that made me, really, truly made me want to either fit in or made me feel like I had to prove. And it was hard. Like, I kid you not, Ashlyn, my mother hates to hear these stories. But I told her that is who I am. But when you just said what you said about having kids made you forgive your parents, I was like, then I need to adopt some kids. Because I need to forgive her.
Yeah.
I need to forgive her. Because she did the best she could.
Yes, and she did. And what they had access to, oh my God, my parents worked so hard. So hard. And I'm like, when did you find time to sleep?
Yeah, never.
Never.
Yeah.
And I just remember, and even to this day, I do not keep canned goods in my home because I lived off of it.
Oh.
There would be tent sales.
Interesting.
I will never forget this at the BX commissary because my grandparents were military. They would have tent sales when it was like close to expiring, or it already expired, and we would stock up on like just canned goods, sloppy joes, canned cream corn, canned green beans. Like I won't touch it. I just won't touch it because it makes me think about how hard that was. So hard. And it is a bit of stubbornness a little bit. Sure. Because, there's not an issue with eating canned goods, but it has this, I just have this weird memory that I'm like, not here. Not now. I work too hard. Yeah, I don't want it. Oh, wow. So interesting about what you won't do anymore from your childhood. I really want to know, Cari, how this shaped you. Like, our experiences, why we chose the life we did. Like, what was the moment you were like, I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
I need to break this cycle. I'm smart. I'm beautiful. I have all these things. I knew it at 7.
Yeah.
Now what? Like, where did Cari go?
I remember being a little kid and the newscaster came to our local neighborhood and we were cleaning up with brooms. And I remember they aired what they called a closer or just like a happy story at the very end of the newscast. And it was me and my neighborhood friends just cleaning up the neighborhood. And before that, the only images I had seen of Black people were like they were gangsters, they were doing wrong. There were a lot of negative stereotypes out there about Black folks. And when I saw that, I was like, well, how powerful. What if I could do a bunch of stories that were all good about what's happening in good neighborhoods? Because I don't feel like my family is everybody that I see on TV. They're not always going to jail. They're not always. And I was really driven by that pureness of wanting to tell the story of a culture that I was a part of. And it was like, if I look back, teenage pregnancy was a real thing. My cousin all my family members were pregnant when they were like 14 and 15, in and out of jail. It was really true stories, in and out of jail, all of those stories. But I still felt different and set apart. And I felt like my job was I always, when I saw Oprah on TV, I was like, I want to do what she's doing. Something about this woman feels familiar and captivating and honest. And I was drawn to her and I was connected to her. And I would just stand in front of the TV and just look at her and be like, okay, she reminds me of you know what I mean? My auntie. I want to be like Oprah, like we all do. And that was my goal. I always wanted to speak for those who couldn't speak for themselves. I always wanted to just do the right thing. And I think the part of me that grew up wanting to fit in, the part of me that grew up wanting to prove, the part of me that was like, I can do more, was really just speaking for myself. Like me saying I want to speak for someone who can speak for themselves. I was just trying to say, see, look, I deserve. I deserve. And I wasn't saying that in those words, but I think all of my experiences made me want to just show people that I deserve a chance. Let this little Black girl in. She deserves a chance. Give her the opportunity and she'll run with it. And for better or for worse, it's helped me. But I am still very, no matter how tough I am, I'm hypersensitive. Yeah. We're the, you know what I mean?
Same, babe.
And it doesn't show up. Yeah, it's not, it may not always come off like, I should be shedding tears. It comes off like, well, I'm with the shits. Like, I'm with the shits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is the only way I can protect myself. But I'm super sensitive. Like, if I think I'm with people and I like them and I learn that they're not as nice or they might be talking crap about me, that hurts my feelings because I was open and I was vulnerable to you. And I wanted to let you in. And so I finally get to the point in my life where I'm still pushing through. And I'm sure you've pushed through. But then I get to the point in my life where I'm like, fuck it. I am who I am.
Yeah.
I don't know I can't.
And you don't have to apologize for that.
Yeah. And it's a great thing. If you get it, you get it. And if you know, you know. But if you don't know, I feel sorry for you because you're missing out.
Well, I love when you talk about Oprah because this is what we're missing is representation.
Yep.
I'll say it over: visibility, representation.
For sure.
I love that you were able to see that on TV as a 7-year-old. Because I read this story about that aha moment for you when you're sitting there and you're, grandma probably is like, get your ass back. You're too close to the TV. I don't know if it was your mom or your granny.
Both.
Yeah. Why are you so close to that TV,
I was
honey?
sitting on top of the TV. They're like, you're going to have bad eyes. Too late.
No, it's too late. It's too late. But it's... seeing is really believing, right? I think for women, we're always told to not take up too much space. Don't be too confrontational. Don't say too much on this topic. And it's like the second we do, we're labeled as complicated, confrontational, all of these things, a bitch or this and that. I can imagine as a beautiful, smart Black woman going into TV, going into journalism.
It's hard. How dare you? How dare you?
I can't imagine what you faced, but you're still here.
It's hard. And it's still hard.
It's still hard.
Here's the thing. I think when I went to ESPN, well, first of all, I started off in local news and I worked my way up. And I got fired for cursing on air. It's my favorite story.
Tell me everything. West Virginia.
It's my favorite
My girl
story.
grew up in Pasadena.
I grew up in Pasadena. I drive my Nissan Altima to West Virginia to get my very first TV job.
And you went to UCLA.
I went to UCLA.
So let's talk about that, right? And you're now shipped to West Virginia.
UCLA, I'm in Westwood, is the center of everything.
Yes.
And then I've only lived, and as you well know, California is arguably one of the most liberal states. Everybody's doing whatever. You mind your business. No one cares. No one cares. You just mind your business. And I get a job in Bluefield, Oakley, West Virginia. Market 1 something at the time, probably 200 now.
Oh my God.
And I was a one-man band. They gave me a car, they gave me a camera, and they said, in a tripod, very much like what you see here. And they were like, good luck, go out there and do it. So I was like, okay, I'll go and do it. And at the time, you speak of representation, there were only really 2 women who were really well known. And any woman who was doing kind of what I was doing kind of looked like Katie Couric, you know?
Oh, wow.
Short hair. Oprah was aspirational because she was sitting and she had already done. Katie felt very newsy to me. And I wanted a big cheap suit and a short haircut. And I was, oh God bless me. I mean, oily skin, makeup here, breaking out.
We need a picture. So we're going to
really,
put a picture
I
on
literally
this.
have to go, WOAY. I got to go call and ask for a photo because it was a disaster. But it was my very first job and I loved it. And I loved it. And I loved it. And I loved it.
Wow.
I didn't care how the mayor walked up to me and said, hey, do you want to meet our colored lady? This was not 1919. This was 2001. And I was like, you're what, ma'am? Yeah. She was like, our colored lady. You guys will have a good time. And I was like, oh, she thinks that's okay. And I didn't. And then I remember I had befriended a few people there. And I was like, gosh, the mayor called me colored. She's like, you've never been called colored? I was like, oh, I don't know. I literally drove from 2001 to 1976. I don't know where I drove to. It was like I was driving backwards. But it didn't offend me because she didn't. You want to hear something crazy? She wasn't saying that offensively. It was a term that she had been using since the beginning of life. And I wasn't, and I felt that. I didn't feel like she was trying to put me down. I felt like she was really trying to embrace me and have me meet people. And they didn't know I was a city slicker. I was like, we don't use those words where I'm from. She's like, oh, really? You know, like they were just surprised. And I remember thinking, I didn't care that happened. I remember thinking, I love what I do and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And I'm going to be so amazing at this because I love what it is. The telling stories, meeting people, understanding who they were. And then I had bounced around because in that business, local news, you have to bounce from market to market. So I went to Florida and I thrived there, West Palm Beach. And then I went to Atlanta. And Atlanta was when I fully realized I was a Black woman and I did not deserve this, in their minds, the same privileges other people had. Atlanta was the first time, because I do believe I describe Atlanta, that city, as a blue dot in a red state, meaning everyone was seemingly progressive. The mayor was Black. The governor wasn't Black, but like those people who were there were lawyers and attorneys who were very Black. And I was like, oh, this is a very Black, upwardly mobile community. And I remember being told by my boss at the time, basically I was too big for my britches and he didn't like my attitude and he wanted me to be humbled. And he tried to, and they fired me. They fired me for a story that was not even worth being fired. But it was whether or not I said mother sucker on air, which is a common thing. You know, Black folks be like, mother sucker this. My mic was hot. And you could hear it in the commercial break. You couldn't see me, but you could hear me saying mother sucker. And they're like, no one uses that word. And I'm like, it's a Black terminology. We use it all the time. It's very funny. It's my way of not cursing. But more importantly, I wasn't even on camera. So why are you firing me? What did I do wrong? Really? I was literally a commercial break. But my boss had told me that I'd gotten too big for my britches in a matter of speaking. And I was like, oh. And then everyone started to talk to me about what it looked like and how I presented and how it made people uncomfortable. And I was like, oh, I'm too comfortable. You want me to be more deferential. You want me to, thank you, sir. Thank you, boss. And I was like, I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even have that in me. Even if I knew to do that, I don't have that in me because we're equal. I walk in any room thinking we're the equal. You're just as important. Everybody's all the same, right?
Yes.
Why are you so special over me? Why does your skin color make you better than me? what in the world is this thing that told us that if you are darker, you have more melanin, you don't deserve? I mean, and it is a truth around the world, around the globe. And I have never in my life adhered to that truth. And I won't.
Yeah.
And I won't. And I won't.
No, you won't.
And I remember thinking, oh, this is bigger than me. And I moved back from Atlanta. They ended up hiring me. I got fired, but hired again because they really had no cause. And I stayed there for about 4 or 5 more months. And then I moved back to LA. And my best friend was like, you are militant. When did you turn so militant? And I was like, I'm not militant. I just realized I'm a Black woman in America.
Jesus. And that's more true now than ever.
It's more true now than ever. And I had no idea. I was running around for the bulk of my adult life thinking life is good. I didn't know life is great. I didn't know I was separated because in the world that we live in, you have to work hard and you'll get ahead. Mm-hmm. And I did those things. I put my head down. I did the work. I was a good person and I got ahead. My skin color should not have mattered. Mm-mm. But the world will humble you. And when I was in Atlanta, they reminded me that your skin color does separate you. You are supposed to act a certain way. At least that's their philosophy. And I left. I say that all the time. I was like, the veil was lifted. I was a virgin. I was so naive. I was so sweet. And I left and I came back like, all right, I'm tired of this shit. You know what I mean? I
Honestly.
came back like angry.
And they wonder why women are so angry.
Oh, God, I was so angry.
Because we're taught to be grateful, to roll on your back, to take up less room, to be less than everyone else. And we're like, you know, I can relate as someone who sued their employer,
yes.
U.S. Soccer.
Yes.
And they were like, it's this vibe of, oh, if you don't want to do it for this much, we'll find someone else.
Uh-huh.
And finally we were like, well, if we all fucking walk, they can't do anything.
Amen. And we deserve the respect for putting in the hours and doing the things, the 10,000 hours to be great. Like, and I deserve my money.
Yeah. And we constantly are paid less.
Constantly paid less. Constantly.
And when I think of, you know, traditionally, you know, you've worked for CNN
mm-hmm.
and ESPN. I have heard nothing but toxic cultures about these places based on that exact topic. Money,
yep,
and how they treat women.
Horribly.
And the second you start to stand up for yourself, you're out the door and they'll find someone else.
I was the first, I think, Monday through Friday host of First Take. And at the time it was Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. And it was the first venture. And I was in the middle seat. And I really didn't know what my job was supposed to be. The way it was described was that I was just going to be the moderator. And you don't know what that really entails. And I've spoken and I've talked about this since I've left ESPN. Arguably the hardest job I had ever had in my entire life. Surviving that place is something that only the special people can do. And if you're still there, it's because you understand the assignment and you're not taking it personally and you know how to move through the world. It was very clear that I was told not to talk. I could just tee up the topics and let Skip and Stephen A. Go at it. And they let me know I was a rook in every possible way, like for better or for worse. And I didn't expect special treatment, but they were mean now. And it was clear, and I had nowhere to go. I had nobody to talk to. I often describe it as the middle seat. When you're in the middle seat of an airplane.
So you got that fucking elbow? I can't move.
It's the most uncomfortable position to be in life and also on the airplane.
Yeah.
I'll say 2 things, though. I survived them, and that made me very proud of myself. It made me proud of myself because I don't think everybody could do that. I think that I made it easier for Molly, even the woman who's hosting now, Molly Quorum. I think I made it easier for her in terms of I went through it first. But it was a tough ask, and we were always underpaid. And it was always people telling us that we didn't deserve. I see it now. I'll watch. I'm like, oh, they're miserable. Like, not even miserable, but I can see that, yes, we've made headway. Yes, it's great. Women are in sports and they're doing great things, but it has always been a man's world. Like Stephen A. Smith's talking about he wants $100 million because no woman could ever say I want $100 million.
We would be absolutely shamed and canceled. Like, who the fuck is she to even say those things?
What woman could demand? I remember Candace Parker saying when she was still playing and there was free agency for the NBA and she was like, listen, I'm going to say this and I'm jumping offline. I hope the day comes when my daughter can turn down $34 million a year. I hope the day comes. It was something like, I forget the amount of money, but she was just like, we don't have that luxury.
No.
And to me, that's where the respect comes in. Because if you don't pay me like you pay them, you can't respect me. Right? You can't really truly respect me if you don't pay me like you pay my male counterpart.
Well, also, how do you show up and be your full self when you know they're shrinking and minimizing you the whole time and telling you inadvertently, you should just be happy to be here.
You should just be happy to be here.
You got a middle seat.
At the table,
and
young
you
lady.
Shut your mouth and you be happy and grateful.
That's exactly what I was told day in and day out. If I wasn't told that verbally, I was told that in the way that I was treated, whether it be travel or what have you. And whenever I would ask for my own, whenever I would ask for equity, it was like, she's been a problem. Here she is being a problem. She's always complaining. Here she is being a problem. And it's so frustrating. And I'll tell you how you deal. Because either you fight the good fight and then you take a break. And then you fight the good fight and you take a break. But my entire life in this career that I have chosen is fight the good fight, but then take a mental break. Because it will break you down. Yeah. It will make you want to leave. It will make you not want to be bothered. I think that's I want to say that's just what it is and it has to stay that way. But you fight the good fight and then you take your breaks. That's the only way you can literally leave this place with some bit of sanity. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. You're going to go crazy because people are going to look at you like, why are you complaining? Why are you asking for more? And I remember saying a couple of things. Those two men were the hardest working men I've ever met. Mm-hmm. They weren't mailing it in. They would work all day. Mm-hmm. Stephen A. and Skip would work all day, every day. That's one thing I will say. I can't be like they were sitting back there just sitting on their laurels. They were hard workers, which in turn made me want to work hard. But the level of inequity was so blatant and so humiliating. So humiliating. There were times I'd be on air and Skip would be like, shut up. We're not listening to her. She's not she's like fanning me off. And I remember just looking at Stephen A. and Stephen A. would be like kind of rolling his eyes because he knows that Skip is difficult. But it was his show, right? It was Skip's show. So we couldn't push the envelope. And if you ask Skip about it, Skip will say, well, we gave her a platform.
Oh, fuck that.
She's lucky we gave her a platform. You're welcome, Cari. And look, ESPN, thank you. I appreciate the platform. Thank you for giving me a platform.
No, but that's not Cari. But
I'm worthy.
That.
Exactly.
You earned that fucking right.
Exactly.
So don't get it twisted.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, thanks for that. But I earned it. And I didn't just pop up and people didn't just pay attention to me just because I was sitting with you. I worked hard and you know it. Mm-hmm. Like, do not act like you just said, here you go. And I just sat there. I was worthy of all of that before I got there and when I arrived. And it was so difficult because you only had a few people who supported you. And they usually were women, brown women, Black mm-hmm. and brown women mm-hmm. who supported you. And they wanted you to really, really, really do well because they knew what it was like. And it was just a tough ask. But Ashley, I don't know about you. I was built for that. I don't think we should have to do it, but I was built for it. I don't think we should have to do it.
No, I don't. And I don't think that we have to constantly feel that we have to be that person.
I don't want to be that person.
I don't want my 3-year-old daughter to look at her 2-year-old brother and be like, no matter how hard I work to get a middle seat, it will never be enough because this is the way society views me. Like, that's garbage. Name a man who has won 2 World Cups.
No.
All the championships.
Hard pressed.
And it's just not going to happen.
They're getting investments to build whatever companies they want because people were fans.
Yeah.
And they just want to sit around.
And to me, I think Steven's great. And he's right. He's had, for 12 years, he's had the best ratings, the number one show. He deserves it.
I have said that to him.
But what about us? Why do we not deserve what we're entitled to and the work we've put in just because
let me tell you something. I sent Stephen A. text. I said, get your money. I'm happy for you. I really truly want to see you get your money. That has nothing to do with me. You deserve. Get it all, run with it. You deserve it. You've owned it. But why is it that we as women are constantly told what we don't deserve? Every single day in every possible way. Every single day in every possible way. I don't understand why that is. I do understand now that this country is more sexist, I believe, than it is racist. I do believe that now. I may change my mind a month from now. But I know that it is to hear you complain, and not even complain, to hear you demand what you deserve is very, very familiar to me and every woman I know, no matter what you look like. Blonde and beautiful, black and tall, Latin and this. It is across the board. We feel unheard and unseen in these spaces, especially in sports. And I wish I knew when it could change. I just, in light of recent festivities and activities, I don't know if that will ever change. But here's the problem. When women do get in these positions of power, the few women that I've seen in these positions of power, they don't lift up. They literally keep that, they guard the gate. They don't want to, I'm talking about executives. Like the people who made my life the most miserable were women, executives. And I'm all like, well, why are you doing this? You had to go through the same thing I went through. Why are you making this so difficult for me? You had to fight, push, and finally arrive. And then when you arrive, you decide you're gatekeeping who can come in.
Because we're brainwashed to think there's not enough chairs at the fucking table.
You're right.
So instead of standing on the backs of the women who have paved the way, we stand on their fucking necks.
On their necks.
And that is the problem.
Yes.
It undermines every bit of our worth and who we are. And then the second we say anything about it, we're pegged to be these ungrateful, complicated humans when we're like, we got bills to pay. Who you think's fucking paying? Like, I don't know who.
There's no one coming out of the corner just to pay all bills for me. No, you're right.
You think my bills are different?
Yeah.
I'm paying the same damn bills, honey.
You interesting that you say that. Because I had an agent once who was like, all you have to do is just be nice. Just be sweet. You can get the job. That other stuff doesn't matter. Just be sweet. Just be nice. I was like, I am sweet. I am nice. What? Because I'm asking for them to fly me the same class they're flying my colleagues. What about me is not sweet or nice? Like, how do I ask that question just to ask for what I want? It's so minimizing. And then I don't know if you've seen this. I think people will sit around and say, well, why are they complaining? I'm like, we're not complaining. We're just talking about what it is. But we made it so much better for everybody coming behind us. I think about the WNBA. Do you know like what these women are about to experience? But they stand on the shoulders of so many who experienced so less and got so much less. Of course, there's going to be a bit of resentment, not towards them, but like
the system.
It's the system. And we have to change it. And I don't know how we do that. That's why it gets so incredibly frustrating. Yeah. It's so incredibly frustrating.
But you know what? The thing that we can stay grounded in is we are not them.
Yeah.
We are not like them. We lend a hand. We understand the importance of making room at a table so we all can be seen, and we value our walks, how we've moved in this world.
I had to learn that.
Really?
I was brainwashed. When you use that word, I was thinking, oh, she's so right. I had to learn that. I wasn't friendly because I was taught that women were catty and they weren't going to be my friend and they were going to make my life miserable. So I had such a guard up. And, Jamel Hill, we tell this story all the time. Jamel made it a point to be my friend and to protect me and to look out for me. And I was like, is this what this looks like? If we all come together and we protect one another, is this what this looks like? Because my instinct was to stay guarded because that's all I had known.
How could you not?
That's all I had known because that's what they had told me it was supposed to be. I was brainwashed. And then so now I'm all like, with my foundation, Brown Girls Dream, I give back. And I'm all like, this is what it's about. I feel so much better when I am giving game and when I'm being kind to other people. It's so much more freeing. And we still come across those women who don't want to help us. We still come across those people who feel a way about us because that's on them and that's their shit.
Yeah.
But my hope And I don't have much hope right now, if I'm being honest with you.
It's hard. It's hard.
I mean, you caught me on a time where I wish I could. I'm usually positivity plus. And I don't have much hope right now, especially in this country. But my hope is that when it's time to fight again for the moral arc of society, that I am suited and booted and ready to do so. But right now, I'm feeling real low, and so I know that we can make a difference and change the way women are seen and treated. But it's hard to feel that right now in this moment.
What gives me strength is, especially being a queer woman in what could be 4 years of absolute torture and hell for our community, I do find hope in knowing that, you know, when you think back to the women who have paved the way, who have been the resistance, they didn't get that overnight.
Yeah.
They did not get that
overnight. It doesn't happen
overnight.
overnight. You're right. Keep telling me that.
Yeah. And I will be the resistance. I will fight for my people. I check every box. I have 2 Black children. I'm a gay woman who is from Florida. Honey.
I'm going to tell you, I think you, first of all, I love that. I love your babies, regardless of their color. But you have signed up for a world of lessons, intentionally, with so much love. And that's what it's about. Like, that's what it should be about.
That means a lot to me.
That's what it should be about. It should be like, I want this. I want this life. And
I chose this life.
I chose this life. And more importantly, you know what you already exemplify is that you're willing to learn more. You're not like live in my world and be like me. There's a world out there that will see your son and daughter very differently, and you are open to understanding what that means and what that looks like for them and how they have to process it and making them fully aware. And to me, we're more alike than we're different in so many ways. And I'm like, that's what we should be doing instead of separating ourselves. You know what I mean?
It's having these conversations with people that don't look like us, who maybe don't have the same opinions as us. Imagine the compromise and understanding we would have if we just took time to learn our neighbors.
Yeah, and without judgment.
Just no judgment.
And be like, okay, that's what you got?
That's what my children have taught me. They see no color. They see no gender, no sex, no nothing. They are so pure, which is a huge responsibility of how we choose and decide to raise them. My daughter tells me all the time, Mama, why are you green?
What does she mean?
Why are you green? Because my tattoo, she thinks I'm green. She thinks I'm green. She doesn't look at me. She's not like, you're white, I'm brown.
Interesting.
She has no idea. And she always comes home and she was like, yeah, I have a friend who has 2 daddies, you know, like how I have 2 mommies. And it's just my child at 3. There's no hate. There's no this way or that way. Like, I know the task ahead of me in a world that feels so dark right now. I have to teach these children the light to be the change makers you and I were at very young ages. And it's like, for me, that is the greatest gift, the hardest thing I'll probably ever have to do, especially in this world. It's interesting to see when you have a child, because when I have children running around, they just want joy.
That's it.
They just want love. And it is my job to show them that life is so beautiful and it comes in different shapes and colors, and we don't judge people for that. And we bring joy and kindness into the world, and they are going to be privileged kids. There's no, I don't have to bullshit. They come from privilege, from extreme hardship. You know, the adoption process for me, once I sat in it, it was so icky. It was just like, designer babies this and that, and I'm like, I want the hardest situations.
Don't bring me that.
I don't. I'm not choosing the child. The child will choose me.
Correct.
So I'm learning so much of how I want to raise my children and empower them, knowing their birth parents love them so much that they rather give them a better life. And now they have a choice what they want to do with that.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And
wouldn't it be great if everyone did that? Wouldn't it be great?
It's not hard, Cari.
Yeah, I know, but we've been in this cycle. But I love the fact that you see that. And if you're raising them like that, imagine what kind of adults they'll be. And yes, life will give them their different challenges, but imagine at their core what type of adults they will be.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that I have a hard time with and this sounds like yes but I have throughout my entire career when we talk about women and how I've had to battle with women and that weren't good humans. And they come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors, but primarily it's been white women. I've had such an uncomfortable work relationship with white women that it made me so distrustful of them. But the beauty, I think, is that I'm still able to see people as who they are, no matter what their color is. So when I'm like, I love you, you're the best. Like, I don't even say white woman. I don't, because I see a good person and I know your heart. And so I'm exercising my way out of judging a white woman in the workspace. Thank you for Sophia's, look, I've been a fan of your girlfriends before I even knew you were, before you all even got together. But I loved how she showed up and she wanted to do the work. And she just has that heart. And I was like, I love this. I love this. I receive this. And where can we find more of this? How do we put all of that in the world right now? And I think of you raising these beautiful babies who see no color, who will be great humans. And that gives me hope. Like, that gives me hope in this shitty ass world.
But you just nailed it. You have to be open to receive.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
That's it.
And trust me, it took a long time to get here. I was open enough to receive the love I deserved. And she fell right into my lap. And I am not apologizing for that to anyone.
I'm at a phase in my life where I'm really, truly working on everything that I know that limits my abundance, limits my growth, limits my ability to connect. And that requires me to be quiet sometimes. Like, you sit in quiet spaces, which I hate. The ADD kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
It also requires me to reveal myself. Like, you are a seer. And so to sit across from you in this lovely show, Wide Open, you see people. So if they come here and they pretend like you can't see through them, it's going to be really uncomfortable for them. And it's going to make me nervous. Like, I was like moving my hands. I was like, oh, she's such a seer. Like, I gotta bring my whole heart today. I got to tell all my truth with an F. I was like, fuck. More wine, please.
More wine, honey. I know. I'm
cheers.
Cheers, honey. I'm like really going through this.
I know, and good for you, because it's healing. Good for you.
Thanks, Cari. I tell you what, that is the greatest gift you'll ever give to yourself, because you receiving and you being open and vulnerable, you never know who's going to knock on your door. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
The greatest thing happened to me a year ago in the worst timing of my life, but I was still willing to be open and receive it, even though in moments I didn't think I deserved it.
Amen. Oh gosh, I love that. Amen is everything.
And I really feel that this version of yourself and who you're bringing.
So hard.
What you put out is exactly what you attract, honey. And you are a good, smart, beautiful human who deserves the world.
And be open to it.
Yeah. Gotta be open and receive the hell out of it.
I receive it.
Thank you so much for being on this show. You have your own podcast. Please tell the listeners where to find you, what it's about, what you're doing.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, I just want to tie it on a perfect bow.
Okay.
About what you're doing right now.
Naked Sports. It meets at the intersection of sports, culture, and politics. At the beginning of the season, which is available right now, I did the making of a rivalry, Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. But it was about how these two supernovas have really, for whatever reason, been chosen to put women's sports on the map. They have been chosen. It is their time. We don't know how it happened, but it has happened. And people are paying attention to the WNBA and women's sports in general in a way in which I have never seen before. They're buying WNBA teams that are valued at $200 million starting. And it has everything to do with, one, Caitlin Clark, because of the way she's an excellent basketball player, but the way she plays the game. But the rivalry got interesting, or her story became more interesting when Angel Reese came in. You need a foe. People say Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. You need a foil. You need somebody to create this inertia because I'm paying attention. You had that when you were playing. And there's storylines. And so now everyone's locked in. And I just talked about what it means for these two women. But I also don't hide from the fact that it is literally black versus white. It talks about what America is made of. It talks about how some people are using Caitlin Clark to co-opt their own story / narrative. And Angel was always going to be a villain just because she was a tall black girl. She didn't have a choice. She plays basketball and she talks shit. That's not allowed. Right. But that's not allowed in this world. And these two ladies are changing the way we consume sports because it's okay now to talk shit. It's okay now to get in your face. Y'all been doing it from, you as an athlete has been doing it from day one. We should be allowed to be athletes first, then women next. Don't judge me for doing the same thing you applaud men for. You love a good rivalry with men. You love when LeBron talks trash. You love when, Draymond gets in someone's face. Why is this all of a sudden so damn offensive now? And then from that point on, we have been able to take culture and politics and intersect them in every way. So the first 6 episodes were about those two. And then everything now on is just about being naked and talking about sports, whether it be Jerry Jones and his history and what he's doing with his team, America's team, and what he actually represents as an 86-year-old white man, being a billionaire, being very progressive, but having a very interesting past. Or it could be, we talked about the election and what it looked like and what it means for Black women. I did after the election, I did a love letter to Black women because they, 92% voted for Kamala Harris. And for many reasons, people can identify with, but it felt very personal. It felt like it was a referendum on Black women. It felt like you didn't want Black women to be a part of this society, yet we show up all the time and we care and we care and we love and we care and we love and we care. And it's been that way since the beginning of time, right?
Absolutely.
And so I just wanted to send this love letter out to these women to say, you are loved, you are seen, you are valued. Take your rest, but come back better tomorrow. We ride again tomorrow.
The work does not stop.
The work does not stop.
Well, thanks so much for being here, Cari.
I love you so much, friend.
So vulnerable and open.
So uncomfortable.
Because it's not easy.
Oh my God, it's so uncomfortable.
Not easy.
My heart is racing.
You can take a deep breath, but just know, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
I love you too. I love you too. Let me drink more.
I'll fill you up, honey. Thanks, everyone.